anything else.
Oh, screen just went black.
Looks like we might get it.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot.
Wait, who's pushing that? Meredith, you're pushing that?
I've been pushing the whole time.
Yep, I see. Meredith, you're live. Let me put my video back on.
There you are.
You know, it's weird. As soon as I started pressing stream through XSplit is when it started working. You know, it's weird. As soon as I started pressing stream through XSplit is when it started. Fix my stupid head. Ah.
I can fix the image of your head. I can't fix your stupid head.
Huzzah.
There's a plug-in for that, I think.
All right, let's try this again. This time with less technical difficulties.
Let's try it again. This time more live. Coming at you in 3. Hey, what's up, everybody? Kel Decadence coming at you with take number 2 for the Mind Clash podcast, episode number 49. We had a little technical difficulties. Sorry about that. But with me this fine evening, I have my typical co-host, Senor Merdad.
Hello, everyone. Buttons are hard. They are harder than they look. You have to push them more than once.
I don't think that was a button pushing problem. That was something weird. You know, because I did have to, once we became affiliates, I had to set up a, verification code through my phone to log in. So I don't know, weirdness.
2-auth.
Maybe. Yeah, 2-factor authentication. But yeah, anyways, thank you very much for joining us. Sorry that we have to redo intros. At least we only had one to redo, and that would be King Voodoo.
Yeah, guys, I'm the Slice AT captain. You know, you guys probably seen my spam on my YouTube channels, kind of mentioned on the stream and all, or see me, you know, shit posting on Reddit, or, you know, just just somewhere in general. Probably not the best impression I leave all the time. I just have fun with it, man. And I got with me today my co-captain and my Logi pilot from my AT run from the last 2 years, Mr. Sakaras Lane. Just glad to be here tonight. You know, cover our run and cover the AT in general.
Nice. Thanks for joining us. And then we've got Rinn Miller from Brave.
Yeah. Brave newbies, just Super New Bro Corp. If you want to join and learn how to play.
Yeah, super new bros. Like, who are you guys?
Super new bros. We're pretty bad, honestly. Pretty much my experience with AT, I joined the team 6 months ago, and I've only been playing a year, Eve for not even a year now, so that's about it.
Nice. All right, appreciate you joining us. And then we have a returning fantastic guest, Mr. Rixx Javix from A Band Apart.
Hey, it's Rixx, and I guess I'm the Alliance Executor of A Band Apart and CEO of Stay Frosty, which is this tiny little pirate corporation in low-sec. Doesn't really do anything and pay no attention to it. So if we enter local, don't panic. We're just there to have fun and share hugs. So this is our third time out for the Alliance tournament. So I'm looking forward to it, talking about, especially hearing more about from King Voodoo. He's pretty awesome, guys. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Let's see. Next up, we have Cyclo Hexanol from Rote Kapelle, or Kapelle. How would you say?
I mean, you can say Rote Kapelle. I like Rut Carpool, but I'm the team captain of the Rote Kapelle team. We did decently this year, better than previous years, and I'm also the CEO of the Dickwad squad within Rote Kapelle.
Yeah, I know those guys.
Yeah.
All right, and last but not least, Sakaras.
That is correct. Like Voodoo said, I was the Logi pilot co-captain for the Slice team. I've been playing this game for a very, very long time, 2003 forward. So I have a lot of salted knowledge to put forward. I look forward to questions and contributing.
Right on. Yeah, so for those of you listening at home and joining us, you may or may not know, I hope you do know, that the reason I have these fine gentlemen on here is because we're going to talk about the Alliance tournaments, which, what are we going to call it? Weekend 4? So they had day 5 and day 6 just occurred this past weekend, and we had some very interesting matches indeed. And all of these guys were taking part of that. But first, Meredith, do you want to do news first?
Yeah, let's do some news.
Oh, before we even get there, if you have not heard it, we have made affiliate, and I would like to thank Curious Stranger. He has subscribed to us via his Twitch Prime membership. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can link your Twitch account to that, and you can pretty much gift somebody a subscription. It's free for Amazon Prime users, so might as well if you want to, but no pressure or anything.
Yeah, thanks so much for the support. We really appreciate it. Just do this show for the love, but I mean, we could do it for the space box too.
No, you can't. No, you can't do it for space bucks because that would be RMT. Right. Anyways, so just some real quick little notes before we get into the main topic. Eve notes or Eve news, the 15th, which is tomorrow, for the YC something update. Who's even counting these days? We're looking at the Lucky Clash event is starting. That's going to replace the agency events, and I guess what we're looking at is from the 15th to the 22nd, the Interstellar Gaming Commission is under attack by the Red-tailed Sharks, and somehow it's not Capsuleers. It is now Capsuleers who are being asked to defend those casino installations from the threat of the Red-tailed Sharks. Interesting. So we have a real in-game casino war happening. Any thoughts on that?
I think it is a clever play on situations.
Yeah.
I think the jab at goons and the winter war of the fall of the Fortress Fade and so forth, space monkeys getting camped in, getting drug all over the map. I think it's a real interesting play on words.
I mean, part of me is like, is CCP really this clever, or did they just, are they efficient for content? Like, I don't know. If it is them being clever, touche. If not, still touche.
Well, I hope the content is driven towards the middling ground where players that have been playing for 2-3 years get a lot of content instead of just directing it at new bros, simply for the fact that we need people that have made it past that 6-month curve who need content and are going to be interested in running these. And so the rewards, I hope, have to be worth it. Otherwise, it's just going to be another kind of like agency debacle where it's really not worth the time.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't intentionally do any agency things, but if they happen to, show up on the notifications that I've completed an objective, great, whatever. I don't think I earned anything from it. But also in this release, the YC whatever release for the Lucky Clash, we have quality of life changes to structures. So the quality of life changes to structures, I believe that's going to be weapons, something to do with weapons, or how you use weapons. I'm not sure.
As a possibility. I think I'm just excited about any improvements to structures, and I'm just excited for winter patch where we see mining rigs and we can get rid of all the passes. So my life becomes easier and the rest of the possibilities become a little bit happier.
Yeah, so we're slowly starting to edge our way into that. Well, we're also going to have corporation insurance inside the citadels, as well as new improvements to the map, user interface and user control. So hopefully that map beta gets a little bit better, as well as standings improvements to the UI. So I looked at that. That looks pretty cool. Persistent scanning results. That is great, especially for wormholers.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, you flying around in a spaceship spaceship that you know, is calculating warp drives and everything else, but like it can't store the data that you scan down when you jump through a gate. That's aggravating. You jump through before you bookmark all your SIGs in a wormhole, and you have to start all over.
Gone. Yeah, right. So that'll be good. So it looks like found signatures won't change when you dock or jump, and it will reset at logout or downtime, which does make sense. You've logged off, you've lost that data, but if you're just docking up, that should definitely stay in your ship's memory buffer.
I think won't this change the most, or change a lot for hunters if they jump and then they'll come back and have signatures of, I don't know, your mobile tractor units saved, right? That will still happen, so you can just jump back and forth versus having to rescan that unit.
It's going to be great for hunters, just pre-marking all the plexes and then going down and hitting them up. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm going to find these individuals out here, scan it down, let them get into the pipe, and then go hit them up. And they're fat, juicy targets.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be all that fun stuff. Plus, there's going to be a few skins. The Firewatch skins for your fantastic little Concorde ships. But that's all the Eve news. A few little things of battle report / player news. As you know, we are Twitch affiliates. But I also want to rep out that Eve Online 3D viewer tool that was created by... Oh boy, I gotta look again. Someone help me out here. His name is Bierkoff from Skyrats 404 Alliance. So he created this cool little fantastic tool, which we were talking about pre-show. What do you guys think of that fun little tool, the 3D viewer?
I love it. I think it's the best thing I've actually seen into at least for broadcasting tools. But going back and looking at matches, especially from an AT perspective in Logi, great for film review, great for critiquing, and great for scouting. It was great. Anybody who's going in the AT should go look at those and look at the matches that were won and lost, and learn from the mistakes of the pilots.
Yeah, and generally the first 5 or 6 moves, especially on match versus ABA. It was a lot closer than people thought. Shout out to Rixx and those guys. They piloted that really well. It was a new wrinkle on a fleet comp that we had fought many times with the Hugin. But we didn't get a chance to actually look at that film versus those guys. But like once we was able to break down film on the other people using the tool, like we knew their tendency. Like I'm going to the beacon right behind me, and those first 5 moves determine more matches than people realize. It's not. Where you position yourself within the first 35 to 40 seconds in a match really makes a difference. And this tool gave us the ability to set up like we did versus FCon, and the ability to set up versus no handlebars the way that we did. We was able to watch their move and watch their whole entire team pull back, and then watched all of the rest of the matches and knowing that they seen all of the stuff as well from the other matches. It was really great. It was really great to see how teams disseminate and move around the grid. It was amazing. And then when he added the drones to it, it made it even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, I've used it several times already to watch our own games and watch everything else, because I haven't been super happy with the camera work for the shows. I don't like watching spaceships blow up. I want to see the match. So that allows me to do it.
My biggest issue with the streams is they want to make it look pretty for all the people who are coming to watch Eve who don't particularly know what it is, right? But they don't have good zoomed out views that show you the progression of the battle, the positioning of the teams, and I think that's a huge downside. And that 3D viewer just lets you go back, see how the teams position, figure out why they position the way that they do, and it's just a great tool for gathering intel and becoming better.
Yeah, because you can twirl it around, you can drag it, you can zoom in and out. So I mean,
you can follow a pilot.
Yeah, so you can see what exactly is going on. But I will say that CCP did maybe a slightly better job with the camera angling this time around than they've done before.
Well, from a spectator perspective, the matches have been fun to watch on the mainstream, but from an AT almost athletic perspective, like going to the tape is huge, and this tool is probably, like I said, the best thing I've seen come out of the AT for the AT in a long time.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I don't think it's a surprise that it's unrelated that this AT has seen as many upsets and new teams going further than usual, and the appearance of that tool. I think that being able to analyze those matches in the way that the tool allows, as to King Voodoo's point, not that it gives you every answer to every problem, but it allows you to analyze the tendencies and the comps and the way people fly. And that's how we used it too. So I think it's made a big difference as far as maybe democratizing the amount of information that the teams have at their disposal.
Well, I think that there's some aspect of that, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of the upsets that you saw so far in this AT are due to the meta and how it's organized itself. Even like on the first day, you had Hydra being upset by Templess, right? And Templess wasn't able to see how Hydra flew before that.
Yeah, Templess did scrimmage with some really good. They were scrimmage partners with Laserhawks. Pretty much through the year, and they're undefeated at this point. Templess didn't get enough credit, and then they got too much credit. They're a good squad. So
yeah, excuse me, I just broke all my Chrome windows. I had to get everything back up.
Oh.
Whoops. But yeah, so
meta's been interesting in this. Meta's been real interesting in this AT. With the way it's set up, it always is when Serpentis ships show up. It's not like everybody stacks newts like the Blood Raiders or anything else that's there. It's always fun to see what you're going to bring because their frigates are kind of weak, so you kind of roll those out for Punishers rather than bringing Daredevils in if you can. It's just it's really good on the meta, and I agree. But I also say that tool allows you to scout teams that don't normally practice. You end up with PL and NC trying to be secretive, and you can go back and watch their match and just really drill down on how are we going to get this one guy? What can I learn from this more experienced pilot's moves?
Yeah, totally agree.
So yeah, cool tool there. Also, I didn't see, but is Event, were they still doing the voting thing where you can vote on which team you think is going to win the next matchup for like a random prize, or was that just on their stream?
It was just on their stream.
Okay, I wouldn't know because I didn't watch any of this shit live this weekend. Sorry. All on replays. But yeah, so there was that. But we still do have the at.webrar.com, which is the voting bracket system where you can try and decipher which team you think is going to beat it all. And there will be lots of prizes for that. So if you're interested in doing that, you can check that out. That's at.webrar.com.
so many tools for the AT this year.
Oh god, yeah.
Hey, the more the merrier. I like it. This is like filling out your NCAA tournament bracket.
I wish all these tools were around last year when I was a first-year AT competitor and captain. That would have helped so much.
Yes.
Like a lot of the first-year teams and captains, you'll see them get out on the field and they'll like thrash around a little bit in nonsensical manners. But when you introduce these tools, they do a lot better because they have a better understanding of the meta, the piloting, the organization.
Yeah, these tools really help. Like the first year goes by so fast, though. Like you don't know where to get to practice. You don't know who to practice with. You don't know where any of the things are. But this year, these tools just made it a lot easier than last year's loss last year. Completely clueless.
On a CCP like aspect of this, I know that we experienced, at least in my first year, we were practicing, and everybody disappeared, and it was really kind of like off the form path that there was this thing called Thunderdome, and you needed to submit your teams to it to get into it. And so we sat there not having a practice partner for almost like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I didn't want to let Thunderdome go by without mentioning it because that's also another thing that's really made life so much easier for Alliance tournament prep.
I did submit a forum post to ask them a little bit to make it easier. Like, I guess you guys have got a smaller group and you guys can add all of you guys like in Rote and ABA. But for us in Slice, you know, we got like 2,000-3,000 members in Slice. Adding people to that was just cancer. Like, I had guys stepping in and out for real life, and like you had to wait like a week and a half, you know, for them to respond because they're busy. But you're all right. Thunderdome is amazing too. You can just reset those matches and do them again really easy, except for on the Tech 3s. The Tech 3s are really, that's why you're not seeing many of them in the tournament this year. It's because it's just aids to try to get one in there.
Well, they're also really points expensive this year. Like they're 18 points, which you could feel the command ship for that price do a lot more damage, have a little bit of utility, and do really well. But as far as Thunderdome, the thing I'd really like to see is I'd like them to make it so that captains got the roles to manually add team members themselves.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see why not. You have access to all the other admin lists, so why not?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I can't say that I saw any freaking T3 cruisers on there.
No, you saw some, but they died in the fire, like Pinecone Squad or whatever it is. Pinecones. They had a Armor Jam Tengu setup that did not really work out well at all.
I thought I saw a Loki too on somebody's first weekend, but I don't.
They're hard to fit up. They got changed mid-season. It was just for the T3 getting the footwork in for it was just rough, especially with it drastically changing come halfway through the AT season.
Yeah. So I guess since we're all talking about the ATs, might as well just dive right into it. Yeah, Meredith.
I just wanted to mention that if you are interested or participating in any of the wars, there's lots of wars going on right now in EVE. It's a great time to be playing EVE. Maybe if you're sitting out of the game or haven't been playing much because of summer vacation, like I've been on summer vacation for the last week. There is war in the north, in the south, and in the east, and probably in your local pocket. Log on, find your group. If you're not part of a big group and you'd like to get involved in wars, there's lots of groups actively fighting right now. It's a great time to go and experience some nullsec fights. Mind you, they might be a little bit laggy, like the Imperium Fortizar timer that's going on right now. Hopefully I'll be joining into that fight post the show. Hopefully Tie-Dye will hold it on for me.
Faux show. Yeah, cool. Someone else was gonna say something or no?
Yeah, your whole guest panel here is like FC. What is tranquility for the last like 4 months straight? So like, we kind of all out of touch with the wars that's going on. Like we just setting our foot back in the, you know, hey, is it safe to come out now?
Yeah, you get a ping. It'd be right at the beginning of AT practice, and the consensus would be fuck that ping. Like we got AT practice to do.
I think.
Wait, if I lose ships here, it's for good. I lose the money associated with them. What?
What's wrong? I can't hit right click create fit. What's going on here?
Can you teleport me? Can you teleport me to the system, please?
I'm still a -10 pirate stuck in G to 4-4.
Right.
Good luck.
Godspeed.
Yeah. So, like we said earlier, we have all these guys here because they all took part in this in some fashion or another, whether it was returning all-stars, some new up-and-comings, or just some wildly crazy upsets. So real quick, let's start going over some day 5 stuff, which was Saturday. Meredith, how do you want to do this? Do you want to go over everything or just kind of onesies and twosies?
We'll see how it goes. We got lots of time.
It's true.
Hosting today was CCB Antiquarian. We had Elise and Chocolate Rain on the desk to start the first half of the show, and Jin and Moderator were on commentary.
Oh, Jin.
There's lots of weird, cringy comments in chat, which made it weird to watch chat, and eventually I just stopped.
Yeah. He did put some effort in this year, though. Rote Kapelle actually invited him to come practice with us a little bit to help the commentators get some understanding of the meta and stuff like that, and he did pretty well.
Yeah, we enjoyed that as well. We actually took part in that practice. I think we got a video of that as well. We got a video of everything. But that was nice to see him come out and kind of get a base for the field. They did a good job. They did a good job of the mechanics of it this year. Like their little quirky personalities. That's just them. You just got to deal with that.
I would say, please, if you are commentating and you want to come and you want to, like, if CCP, if you select your commentators and you want them to say run an Alliance tournament tool on field and maybe sit in on someone's TeamSpeak to listen, to figure out what's going on, to get a better grasp of it, please come sit down. As a player, I appreciate it. I want you to have all the knowledge and all the tools and all the information you can about what's hitting the field, what might be going through people's minds, why somebody's making a move they're making. I think that's great. As long as, CCP can vet the individual and say, hey, this is for the AT commentator. Don't go trying to sell your secrets. Like, we're putting a lot of faith in you coming out here to run a big event, and give them the knowledge. Like, let them run it. Let them come see it. I think that'd be great.
Put him in ships too. We kept putting Jin in ships and putting him to work.
Yeah, you put him in a Griffin and we primared him every time.
Yeah. Well, like, he's got to understand why Blackbirds and Rooks are often brought over the Griffins, right?
Correct.
They don't last very long, the Griffins, especially in the current meta.
No.
All right, let's talk a little bit about meta. So
Let's talk it.
in the first couple weekends, we had an obvious meta in the Navy Battle Cruiser Corps. We also had an obvious meta in the Drone Blob. What other major metas were sticking around? There was Tinker. There was a little bit of experimentation. I know week one obviously has a lot more experimentation than further weeks.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, there was also the variations on some traditional metas, which are still kind of hanging out there. Which, the variations on Galinti Rush and Mimitar Rush, which Tuskers used quite effectively until they stopped doing that. But a lot of teams are, those are kind of even throwbacks to 2, 3, 4 years ago, even, and with slight variations. But those are also something you see quite a bit of.
I think in the second weekend, a lot of teams came out with the drone rush. Teams hadn't really figured out how to deal with all-in drone setups, and then you had our match where we handled it very well. Shameless plug, I guess, but our guy Pantheon and his Harbinger, we just kind of looked at the halls and hey, Logi is just useless against 10 drone boats. So, like, once we showed, hey, look, you can use these beacons, you can use micro jumps to get away from the drones and just drag the match out. Like, you started to see people pull the drone comps out, and guys figuring out how to put ECM drones on damage drones, especially in the Gilas and rattlesnakes. So you like the Tech 2 drone meta, everybody thought it was just really easy to drop drones and play. There's a lot of things going on in there, especially even when you see people shooting the drones. That's you don't pick up on that just watching.
At first,
the stream.
it was really easy. Like on the first weekend, it was an extremely easy meta to roll. It's just do damage if you're not in range to lock them, assign your drones to somebody, tell them to use their trigger gun to put some damage on, and like people hadn't gone through and exposed methods of destroying those comps. And by the second weekend, people started to figure out, okay, Logi frigates, good bomber pilots, these are things that can absolutely just holocaust the drones and win you the match, right?
Yeah, and I would agree that, like, when countering the obvious meta, which is the NPC core and then the drones, maneuverability was always step one. And you saw ABA perform it very well against us in our opening match, where they got all their Vexers and all their cruisers out to beacons, which just drug our drones across the field. And we spent time killing Blackbirds, and by the time we were done, our Logi had been caught and killed. And it just turned into a foot race of damage, and they were spread out, and it picked us off relatively easily. So maneuverability was the first counter. Then came defanging. Good bombers. I will say something that has irritated me is all these commentators and their fixation on smart bombs versus T2 drones. you're not bringing enough smart bombs with that many flights of drones to save your logistics or save anything else.
Yeah.
And no good pilot is keeping their drones on top of the smart bomb battleship.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though, is we haven't seen a ton of battleships, and that's your main smart bomb carriers. And with the primary, like, you're seeing a lot of BCs, they just don't have smart bombs, so you're just not going to see smart bombs.
Yeah, but
You don't get not enough damage quick enough to stop 3 flights of drones.
Well,
it's just not enough.
Our match against you guys yesterday, our smart bomb, we switched out the whatever it was in the high slot on the Armageddon, and we put a smart bomb in there. It wasn't for T2 drones; it was for rep bots.
Yeah,
and that's a good point. But like on the commentator side point
rep
on the
bots,
meta,
smart bombs work really well on the rep bots. But Rote Kapelle actually played around with a dual golem basilisk tinker, where we basically were running 6 large smart bombs at once all around a Bassi. And I think it was actually Slice we asked. We asked a couple teams to bring like drone all-in comps against us with nothing but drone damage. You still couldn't kill drones fast enough with those smart bombs to actually save your logi. And it was really difficult to try and finagle a win in any of those.
So in our match against ABA, we... well, at least myself, I launched that first bomb, which was a little bit late because there was a Hugin flying past me and I was freaking the fuck out. Then when I got back to my team, I started splitting from Yukiko, trying to gain distance because all the drones were primarying him. I was trying to get going for a bomb. Once I got my 30 meters, I was going to turn around and try to bomb all the drones off our logi at that point. But the primary changed back to me, and the drones were on top of me before I could launch a bomb. So.
Well, effective bombers are great at mitigating early damage, and they're awesome. Other meta changing is the NBC tracking disruptors completely neuters that comp. So you see a lot of people moving to this. Holy crap! Like there's so many things we can bring in the mids to get rid of NBC on top of bands, and then drones are borderline neutered now because everybody knows how to deal with them. So you're going to see kind of going back to a more traditional setup, or you're going to see just massive amounts of damage, breaking that 6K damage barrier. DPS to get through just to target something and kill it.
I think you're seeing something really interesting develop, to be honest. Like people, now that the cat's out of the bag about how to counter a lot of these drone setups, people are still bringing the drone setups. They're just pairing their like Stratioses and Ishtars with Armageddons or Balgorns, and they throw like a support battleship into the core or something like that to help carry the match. And I feel like that's been decently strong.
Yeah, that's exactly what we tried this weekend.
So
it almost worked.
Let's do it like this real quick. So right at the gate, let's go through. Ronan snuffed out. Ronan took the win. Next up, the match was Skill Yourself and Rote Kapelle. We have a Rote Kapelle guy here. What can you tell us about this match in particular?
Well, with this particular match, we actually lost before we actually hit the field. Something that's seems to be stronger about this AT than the last is the rock, paper, scissors effect. And they chose paper and we chose a rock. Basically, we brought in a rapid light kiting comp that was a little low on the control, but that's not too uncommon for the rapid light kiting comps. And they brought a BC core, which is a really good counter to that if you go max aggression with it, and if you have logi that can keep the reps up on things. And really, that's what happened. I'm not saying that Skill is a bad team. Skill is actually a very good team. They went on to the next day to win their next 2 matches, and I believe they're still in. Yeah. But it just kind of shakes out like that sometimes. Yeah. Good job on them. I hope them luck in the rest of their bracket.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that, constantly where you'd say, oh, okay, this team's probably got it in the bag. And then you just, that first ship would pop and that was it. It's just luck of the draw. But yeah, very interesting. So you guys lost that against Skill Yourself. Next match was Thermodynamics versus Brave. And we have Rinn here from Brave. So he can tell us how they won the shit out of that match.
So a lot of people are we brought that typical Sleipnir rush that we saw used against us the match before, which
Tuskers.
Tuskers. We were really familiar with using the Sleipnir rush because of we initially, because you guys know Brave didn't bring a flagship because of miscommunication, but we were initially going to bring actually Scorpion Navy issue to run with Sleipnirs. That was our plan for our flagship. So we like at the start, before we learned that we didn't get our submission in, we practiced heavily with Sleipnir Gilas, and so we were actually really comfortable. Then once we saw Tusker's setup of it, we decided to modify our own and bring that in our next match, because we had predicted that we would see Thermodynamics flagship. So we figured we'd see a Quad BC set up with that, and the best way to go against Quad BC in our eyes was to bring Sleipnir Rush.
Yeah, now looking at my notes and just, from what I was observing, you guys used smart bombs right off the get-go on that?
So that was actually the first time in any 18 setting or practice ever that I launched a bomb. So it was a mess. We, I think John called it right off the bat, just bomb straight away, try to get rid of their drones. And so I did it. And the other bomber pilot who was flying with me sent his bombs out, I think 13 seconds later, which there was this big miscommunication with our bombing. And we ended up bombing off all of our own rep bots off of our Balgorn that we had. No, wait, I'm trying to think. I'm getting my matches mixed up here. Everything's a blur.
So in this match, Thermodynamics brought their Flag Armageddon, Unknown Heroes, a Fleet Hurricane, Fleet Harbinger, Fleet Brudix, 2 Vigilant, 2 Purifiers, and a Malediction, and Brave brought 2 Sleipnirs, Basilisk, 2 Gila, Ferox, 2 Moa, 2 Manticores.
Thermodynamics is a quality team too that you guys beat. I was really surprised. I scrimmaged both of you guys in scrimmages, and like I knew it was going to be a good match. You guys did a very good job versus Thermodynamics. Don't ever sleep on those guys. Those guys had an excellent run through the brackets. They just had an unlucky draw in the first weekend.
They had Exodus first, right? Their Exodus was their second match, and then then they went down. Which there's no shame in that. Exodus is a very execution-based team. Rote Kapelle actually lost to them as well in a mirror match, but they're very, very good pilots in Exodus.
Yeah. So following that was Shadow Cartel versus Test. Test won that. Then we had the Bastard Cartel. Got whooped out by WeForm Volto. That was 100-0.
Yeah, I just want to. I wanted to say something about that match. I thought it was funny how quickly they banned Blackbirds, and after, because Volta had lost to us the last weekend, and they were understandably upset that some of their ships were jammed out the entire match. They just really wanted to make sure that that didn't happen.
Yeah,
so
I thought
it was kind of funny.
I'm going to share the Balgorn kill mail that was associated with that one. That was their flagship, I take it.
Yeah, and notable in this match, WeForm Volta brought the Raibisu with the Balgorn.
Yeah, that was sexy.
It's always interesting when these AT ships are on the field.
Yeah.
And not to be confused with the Mercenary Coalition versus Bright Side of Death, which was also 100-0 in favor of Bright Side. MC had a Balgorn as a flagship, but they did not lose it, so good for them. But I will also share this what was kill board for, Merdad? Talk to me about this. I didn't see this.
Oh, this is this is another flagship that died. Fairly crappy loot on this one. Not Bling Fit. There was a little bit of a commentary that they didn't go all in for the Toby's webs. Which
so the Balgorn did die.
Yeah, so MC had a Balgorn flag with the Navy Harbingers set up, but they downgraded to regular Harbingers in addition, instead of going for another Navy battlecruiser. And then BSOD had Bright Side of Death had a drone blob set up with the Dominic's, Myrmidons,
yeah,
Ishtars.
I guess if it was 100-0, then all their ships would have been destroyed, if my math is correct.
Correcto.
Yep, that's how math works.
Everything has to add up.
It looks like from that they went in. They were still playing that drone meta from week 1 and week 2. Look at the smart bombs on Kendra Lagrange's Balgorn. It looks like they were getting set to fight a drone ball. That's what they were expecting from looking at that mail.
And shout out to Artemis from the Declarations of War podcast, who was flying in that match for Mercenary Coalition. He unfortunately died, but he did stay alive extra time on the MJD beacons.
What were the bans in that match? Because usually you don't see people downgrading to regular Harbingers unless there's a Navy Harb ban.
In the detail we've collected, bans are not one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say they banned a Navy Brutix or something, maybe, or a Fleet Hurricane.
That handy tool that we were talking about earlier shows you all of the bans as well. Which match was this?
Mercenary Coalition versus Bright Side of Death.
Good idea, Voods.
Look at you. But don't get too carried away, because I want to talk about your match, which was after the break, Slice and Pandemic Legion.
All right. So if I have, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, what happened here?
All right. So if I got one piece of advice for a captain, or if you're playing on an AT team, is make sure you have a solid mic and a solid backup mic. My mic wound up breaking that morning, and I spent like all night getting comps ready, for the bands. I normally set them in Windows and all, and just sit them there, and we wait for the bands. And I know PL watches the market, so we was planning on buying like 3 or 4 comps. So I'm scrambling, like I'm trying to MacGyver my mic back together so that I have a mic. So when I seen it, I was probably not going to get that going. I had to swap to a laptop, pull up my laptop, and all my fittings were on the other window. So we wound up going with a comp that was the last thing that we practiced. Wasn't the best thing that we wanted to bring. I missed Slice generously picked up a lot of money for us. And I missed the guy. He lives in the Philippines. That transfers the money around downtown to buy all of the ships and equipment and all. So I missed the money from him. So we're like, hey, are we going to fly that flag comp, which was our preferred comp? And I'm like, whoa, we ain't got the money. I'm scrambling for fits now. Everybody's having to hop on, and like it threw a big loop over one 3.5 millimeter jack. And we wound up coming out with something that was designed to fight a top heavy comp. And we wound up coming out against a very distributed comp versus the number 2 team in a tournament. And they executed us for it. So
couple that with jam. You see on the video, jams go out. No jams hit for 2 cycles. So when jams do not apply for 2 cycles, and we should have known better to run RNG against PL. For some reason, the RNG got us, like, always sides with them. Not a damn jam hit, which was just the end of everything on there. They had me tackled. I was down. That was the end of the Logi. And then it was just – and we'd run against NBC before, and it'll hold up under Logi. But without the Logi, if you don't jam things out and get 1 or 2 picks, it starts to fail skate fast. And, that's what happens.
Nothing to take away from PL. I mean, they executed us, like just double tap to the back of the skull real quick. You cannot make a mistake. You cannot bring the wrong comp versus a PL NC dot. They will embarrass you in a second.
Anybody who wants to go see something really good, you should go watch that Hyena pilot come in. He spirals in nicely. He gets a point hit on me. I did not try to burn away. I was contemplating, and a lot of it's gut feeling. I was like, I'm playing against tracking battle cruisers. If I turn that prop on, I'm going to get railed. So I was slow boating. He spiraled in and dodged all the tackle. He was outrunning the drones. He did a phenomenal job of flying that Hyena. So props to him. He didn't even go down.
And then when we called him primary, he burns right out to like 120 off the group.
Just gone. So kudos to that guy. That guy was really flew that ship very, very well. And we just got outperformed on the field, and RNG didn't come in our favor. And that's just that's the way it goes. We had a really good run, and I was really proud of our boys for coming in and picking up the slack.
They did an excellent job.
Most of those players, that was their first AT, and that was a great run to get all the way to day 5 on that.
Straight out the Colossal too, like straight out the mining belts. They did an excellent job. Something I wanted to bring up was the Chameleon. We was talking about post, like that was one of our bands. So in our testing, like the Chameleon is just broken, and the AT commentators were like, oh well, they might have wasted this band. And then the Tuscas falls to a Chameleon. And then you go into the second day, and 2 other teams just like get wiped, like 35 to to 6 at the end. I'm like, I bet they wish they banned the chameleon at this point.
We just happened to hear that from the grapevine that PL got their hands on a chameleon recently in the past 7 days, and we were like, we do, I'll face an Atana. I don't want to face a chameleon. Like, it's just, I don't. It's too much damage, too much control out of one boat. It's just way from range. It's just too broken.
Yeah.
And expecting from PL that they have the money and the power and the ships to field almost any AT ship, right?
Well, anyone they want. They've got most of them, and they went out and bought the one they didn't have that they wanted to use.
No, we found it. It was later that afternoon. There was Vidra Reloaded that probably bought the one that we heard about.
Yeah, because PL's out.
There are a few usages of the chameleon this year, though. So far, at least.
Yeah, so that's our match. That's our breakdown of it. They're a good team. We did well. Technical difficulties on our side versus a very good team. If you don't bring the right comp, they'll double tap you real quick.
Like Cyclo was saying in the beginning, the rock, paper, scissors, you roll the dice. You got 3 bands on top of that, like just a choice. And sometimes you hit the field and there's a hard counter, and when you land, you go, fuck.
Yeah, not much you can do.
Yeah, and we are no strangers to technical difficulties here on the Mind Clash podcast.
No strangers.
No. Anyway, speaking of strangers, we had next up had Hydra and Salt Farmers. Hydra was victorious there, 68-6. I don't know what strangers had to do with anything. But then we had the Tuskers taking down Vidra Reloaded.
In an expensive match.
Vidra won that match.
Wait, did they?
Vidra put Tuskers in the loot. That's the match I was telling you about with the chameleon.
Yes, you are right. Vidra, that was 18-11 in favor of Vidra. So shame on me for miscoloring that.
This expensive match had Tuskers fielding 2 Vindis, a Raibisu, a Curse, a Prophecy, a Pontifex, 2 Vexers, and 2 Purifiers, while Vidra fielded a Guardian, a Chameleon that we just discussed, 2 Rooks, a Prophecy, 2 Sacrilege, a Pontifex, and a Vexer. And this gave Vidra a huge jam advantage while having a lot of the drone blob as well, right?
Yeah, it was so bad. It was so bad. I actually felt bad for the Tuskers because it's painful. It's probably the most painful match to watch, I thought, because you could just feel the frustration oozing out of their ships.
And that's exactly what we didn't want to face versus a team like PL. It's just get controlled by the nose. Of note in that match, though, those 2 sacrileges for Vidra Reloaded did God's work. They went and tackled those Vindicators from the start of that match to the end of that match and just held them in place. There was nothing they can do. The Serpentis advantage of being able to put mass damage. Me coming up with 120k HP sacrilege. Yeah, they're not eating through it with all those gems on the field.
That's the problem with I warn like my team when they're making comps and stuff like that. Teams that are like when you make a really top-heavy comp, whether it's battleships or like a lot of command ships or something, all it takes to shut that down is like a couple of Punishers, or if you want to be more safe about it, a couple of Vengeances, and effectively like all of those points are off the field. 4 points shut down 23 points or however many points it is.
Except versus the Vindicator. Good Vindicator pilots can either just shed tackle or they just kill it. Unless you got good control like Vidra brought.
So the Vindicator, like that's one of the things that you do see. You'll note a good frigate pilot. If you got good frigate pilots in, like you said, a Vengeance, they can manually pilot down one Vindicator and stay close, and that Vindicator isn't keeping his range 5,000 and trying to line up a shot with that 90% web. That Vengeance will be the end of him.
Yeah.
You got 2 of them, and they're both working together, and they're not panicking because they can't get out. There isn't much in the game that's frigate size that's staying up under 2 Vindicators pounding on you.
Even if it's just a Punisher or a Daredevil, I mean that's 2 points, and Vindicator's going to be like 20 points this year. And the really cool thing is you're not just holding it down and hoping you can keep it held down forever. Your job's to hold it down for a little while, keep it off of your dudes, so your dudes can do work on their logi, their support, whatever the heck you're trying to take down. You're taking that stuff down. Meanwhile, they're trying to shed you. They're trying to get on top of their targets, apply their job, do their job, or apply their damage, do their job. And it's like 2 points gets rid of the 20 points, 40 points worth of ships. And it's great when you have a good frigate pilot like that.
Good frigate pilot. I've said it before, and I tell all the guys on our team, like, you are the most important person. Outside of maybe the logistics, you are the most important person on the team because you make it happen. You're the one that saves everybody else or gets someone else killed. The frigate pilots and the AT deserve like medals on their chest for what they do. And if you're watching it and you haven't played in the AT and you go, why did they bring those Vindicators in at 20? You might be looking at the fact that Vindicator doesn't want to get immediately pointed by a Punisher. He might want to try to web him off or go around him. Like, you don't want to get picked up by a 2-point ship and spend the first 60 seconds of your match ineffective.
I think it's good to bring the Vindicators in at 0 because those Punishers will get on top of those Vindies anyway, right?
Yeah, you can line up a shot. Maybe you get a web on them from out and put them down when they're burning in. If you got a bad frigate pilot will just burn straight in and get caught and obliterated, especially if you have backup.
Not notice the red boxes.
My question is have we seen good Vindicators brought yet, like to great effect?
We brought some Vindicators to some great effect versus Templars.
You gotta know how to you gotta bring them in. The Vindicator battleships in general should be used, in my opinion, to disrupt in this one. Put micro jumps on them and use them to corral and close in. Like, you either got a headshot and put a person down at 0. Who was it we saw burn off and do that? They burned by the rattlesnakes and got obliterated against
the
Pin is out. Pin is out. Yeah. Pin is out. Who are they playing?
Oh, it's actually no.
Is it the Initiative?
I take it back. It was the Templars match that we were watching. They burned right by the rattlesnakes and Vindicators trying to get to the Logi. Instead of just turning and killing the rattlesnake that was sitting there. Like, if you in a battleship and the Vindicators on you at 5, no amount of Logi's keeping you up. You are going to die. It is over for you.
I think that slightly depends on the Logi. If it's a Bassie, I think the rattlesnake could stay alive for a good long while. But also, I think that the key to having a good double Vindicator setup this year is to have a support battleship like a Balgorn or an Armageddon that can actually dish out some neuting power, or maybe, we haven't seen it, but a Scorpion might even work, dish out some ECM, but in that case, Rooks might even be better. But like, you need a good core battleship to provide some control to the field. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to execute matches with a dual Vindicator setup, which it'll make your team a lot more top heavy, but I think it'll make it a lot more effective as well.
I would agree.
All right. So there's a few other matches. I don't want to take too much of that time. So that was Slice and Pandemic Legion, Hydra versus Stoneward. Blah, 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 blah. Where are we at?
NC versus Exodus, I think.
Yep. So NC dot versus Exodus.
This is the beginning of the undefeated bracket for this day.
Yeah. So that was followed by Initiative versus Pen is out, and I'm curious as to why Mirdad wrote a note as rapid withdrawal.
That's the corp. That's the corp in Pen is out.
Oh.
Yeah, these
edgelord gal mail.
Okay, so is that why earlier the moderator was calling Pen is out edgelords?
No, that was I think that was team skill.
Yeah.
Skill yourself.
CCP didn't say you can't say skill yourself on that stream, but they really said we would prefer it if you would not say skill yourself on our company stream.
Why did they call them edgelords and not skill yourself or skills or something like that?
A lot of people said team skill. A lot of people said
skill you.
Some people said team Voldemort, like he who shall not be named, right? Or that was just Jin, I think. But I mean, that's whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got that's one of the two teams in there. They kind of cringe when they say the name. Them and Pen is out.
Yeah. So last week when I did the last weekend's little overview, which went horribly because my push to talk kept not working. But when I was writing the notes, I kept writing penis as like the shorthand for pen is out. And I kept, when I was reading the notes and talking about it, I kept saying penis over and over again. I'm just like, man, I can't do this. So I made sure this weekend when I made notes, it was just pen.
Some of us think that's a Freudian slip.
Yeah, because otherwise I would have just
Team ballpoint.
Because otherwise penis would have just kept coming out of my mouth.
So this is an interesting match because I am actually a fan of Thalia's, or was that the Thalia's over Deacons under the Sig link. I feel that they, when drones is the meta, they do a much better job of taking a web and avoiding like medium drones. But that's just my perspective of flying a lot of Logi Frigs. They have a weaker buffer. They get an ECM in the mids. You know, you don't got to worry about wasting a mid on somebody else to remote ECM boost them. But, you know, it is what it is.
Well, it's really easy to toss in the ECCM. You got the bombers. I've seen a lot of teams do Vexers for the ECCMs this year. Like, all you need is one Vexer, 2 utility mids in an armor comp, and you can ECCM a couple of Deacons. I think that Deacons are the strong friggin' Logi, but all of that is actually based off of last year's AT, where my team did a lot of time in Logi Frigs. We just found out that Thalias don't have the buffer to stick up to damage and then get a chance to get rep bots and rep from the other Thalia. Deacons, in my opinion, were the better choice on that one.
Well, you get a margin of error with the Deacon. You don't really get that margin of error with the Thalia. You either have 2 really good Logi pilots flying Thalias and they're all right, or you have 2 dead Thalias.
Yeah, and this particular match, Pin is out versus Initiative. Like it, you know, for us, we scrimmage late into the night on Friday evening versus Pin is out versus that same exact comp that they brought out. And I'll tell you that comp was rough to fight. There was damage coming from everywhere. You got not only do you got the webs coming off of the Balgorn, but you got the Kitsune running around at like 100 kilometers, just jamming your battleship line the whole entire time. It was a really rough comp. It was a really good comp, really well thought out. And the Pin is out team has great execution too. Like, those guys are tournament veterans. Like, they act like they don't know where they come from, but they actually played in the Anga games, which Pin is out.
Yeah, it was a great match.
Yep. And the last match of that day,
but not least,
that would be Laserhawks and a band apart.
Oh, this match hurt. I'm not even gonna...
Yeah, so I mean, this was one of those situations where it's kind of that what somebody said earlier about rock paper scissors. Our band, we had practiced against Laserhawks a few times, and our bands were specifically designed to drive them into a comp we thought they would bring, and so we had set it up. We had set it up basically as a trap for that comp, and they didn't do it. A couple of, but you know, even so, if we fought this match like 3-4 times, we'd probably win all of them, except for this one. It was one of those things where there's just a cat. And anybody, these guys know how it is when you're in the match and you're fighting. There's just these little things that happen, and these little things usually, you know, for the last 3 matches have been going our way, and then in this match, all those little things went against us. So, for example, the worm, for example. So, you know, initially we were like, okay, we got to take care of the worm. And then we're like, well, you know, we just decided not to primary or take care of the worm until later on in the match. And that was a mistake, but I mean, but not really, you know, because who knew that was going to turn out the way it really turned out. But there were some weird things that happened too. Like, I'll give you an example. I backed up against an MJD beacon, and lo and behold, the Scorpion had come to the same beacon as me, and he had a lock break on his Scorpion, and so for the first 2 times he used it until we yelled at him to stop. But I lost lock on everybody. So there was a moment there where certain things weren't being applied to certain people, which they should have been, and then they got EC drones on it, and that started to break locks. So those EC drones really were a pain in the ass, to be honest. So I mean, it was just one of those things, where it was just a cascade of mistakes, not mistakes, but things, just weird things that didn't go our way, and then but even so, it was a really close match down to the wire, until we lost our Roneros, really.
So Laserhawks, like, there's like, I know people kind of like, you read the comments and stuff. They're like, oh, who Laserhawks? Like, they're not an AT team. They're not that good. Like, Laserhawks, Brave, Test. These are all really good teams that don't get the like fear that they actually deserve. There's, it's you look at them and they underrate them. And if you go into any of these teams and you're underrating them because you're thinking, oh, it's Test, like they're all scrubs. They don't know how to fly in big blobs. Their tournament team is solid. Braves tournament team is solid. Laserhawks tournament team in general, they're used to small scale PvP. They're all solid. So you underestimate them, or you're not on your toes in the fight. You think you can make one mistake, you don't get that chance. That you get one, like you said, Scorpion who catches your damage line with a burst jam. Yep. That could be it, and that's it. They're not making that mistake.
We practice, like, for the last 2 months. Laserhawks has been our practice partner for our Friday practices, and we've practiced a shit ton against them all the time. And this is one comp we practiced the day before hard against each other, was our shield rushes. And we saw us both bring them the next day.
It looks like, from watching a band apart, you guys had an archetype. You guys had, Hugin, drones, get the beacons, and they took 3 of the ships out of that core with your band, with your Blackbird, your EOS, and you guys brought a Scorpion instead, which I think it kind of underperformed for you guys, maybe a little. And they took away the big, fast-moving, heavy drones that it was just laying hate. That Ishtar you guys have with the 3 drone damage amplifiers just laid hate on us.
Well, yeah, and they banned Ishtar, so we brought the Stratioses instead. And honestly, they're not they're comparable, but I don't like the Stratioses as much in that situation. So that was a bit of a kneecap for us. Our pilots are really, really good at the Ishtars, and that was a bad mistake. Honestly, though, if the Daredevils had taken out the worm, if the worm had been taken out eventually, I think that we would have had a lot of easier time. Our strategy from the very beginning, and I still don't know why more teams don't take advantage of the micro jump drives or the micro jump beacons, because our strategy from the very beginning was, and we did that well against the 3 matches that we won, was using those to our advantage. And I think now a lot more teams are picking up on that. But being able to just jump out of harm's way, especially when you're facing drone teams, is a huge advantage, because it just takes, you jump out of the way of a bunch of drones, and then it takes them forever to come back across the field on you. And it, again, it just didn't work that time.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the worm, though, it's a
all kudos to Laserhawks. That was a good fight, by the way, and they well deserved. We end up coming up against them a lot of times in wormhole space, so we're well familiar with it.
So and that pushed you guys out, right? That was the end of it for you?
No, that was our first loss on Saturday. We played Brave yesterday.
Yeah, that was the winner's bracket match there.
Speaking of the worm, though, that's a really interesting pick, and I feel like you could get the job done with better ships like assault frigates or something like that a lot better. And I only really see a lot. I see teams who bring worms not really understanding the meta as well as they should to get very far.
Well, it was counter. I think it was counter programming because of that very reason. We kind of discredited the worm, and I think that was a mistake. But I don't mean it in any sort of criticism against anybody. But it was an easy mistake to make. I think that it ended up performing above its station. But
you should look at them like less well tanked, lower DPS bombers that might have tackle mods in the mids. That's kind of like exactly what a worm is.
It's a very strange.
The night before, we had seen them bring actually 2 in that comp versus 1, so I was actually surprised to see them only bring 1 worm. But me being in the bomber, when we went up against them, it was murder to try to survive any time against the drones of those worms.
The Merlin is a nightmare. It's the Punisher of shields. Like you hope when you're like in the logistics that some team's going to go in on that Merlin, because if it doesn't get alpha because of piloting there, they can typically stay alive for a very long time. Worm, worm, you could typically isolate and put down relatively quickly. It's not going to stay up under the reps. So I'm not trying. Laserhawks is ahead of where we went. I'm not trying to like judge that. They got a comp that works. Good for them. Like run it forward and good luck to them.
Or for the same price as the worm, you could probably pick yourself up a Hawk, and that would tank really well with the T2 resist profile, the buffer profile, just all around a good little tanky tackle ship.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it since Saturday, but I do believe we took the Merlin out right away, because that's again, that's typically what you do, right? You just don't want that thing coming in on you.
Once it gets in and establishes transversal, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You killed the Moa first, from my notes.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Unless I don't know, for us, unless a Moa was holding on like a vital piece, like we kind of ignored their irrelevant DPS. Like they're just a absolute nightmare to take down with that resist bonus over a cruiser haul, and then they can have an extra large ancillary. So we kind of stayed away from the Moas early.
We learned the dangers of the XLASB Moa and the feeders. Those things are they are well worth the points. They're really well tanked. You can put out a good amount of DPS, and it just works out really well.
Well, gentlemen, let's talk about some day 6.
Day 6.
Sweet. So this day 6, we were joined by Fozzie for a bunch of the moderation. Elise was still around. Moderator was still around. Jin was around, and Rain was around for the second half. First match, we had Ronin versus Skill Yourself. So Skill Yourself was victorious with their fleet Navy battlecruiser setup with an Excure against the two Rattlesnake, Balagorn, Myrmidon, Two Thorax, Vexor, Daredevil, kind of Galente Rush team.
This is actually a really cool comeback, in my opinion. To be honest, the Ronin are actually the people who put Skill Yourself into the lower bracket, and they came back and beat the Ronin in their second chance. I feel like in the first match, like the Ronin brought their Logifrigs, and if anybody can do Logifrigs, it's the Ronin. And Skill Yourself, looking at it, went, okay, so if we beat Rote, we have to ban the Ronin's Logifrigs. And I feel like that this was a really good move on their part, because historically when the Ronin can't bring the Logi type that they want to bring, they'll go with a Logiless full DPS all-in rush that looks really wonky, like this one.
Also too, to note is they brought this comp twice. Like you can't, like in the AT, like you can't show something that comes straight back out in it. Last year the Lumpy, I think it was Lumpy, or there was a team last year that brought out like they did really well in the setup, and then they came right back out in it because they did really well, and the team the next match they just got destroyed in the same comp.
Spectre did that a lot. People caught on to how to beat them real easy.
All right, so in the next match we had what appeared to be a tranquility, just perfect storm. I was super hyped to watch this match. Brave versus Test.
Yeah, so this is probably the match we've spent the most time preparing for out of all the matches we've played. Just because simply going into it, we predicted that they'd bring their flag bow, which they did, and we knew we were going to be at a disadvantage because we don't have a flagship of our own to bring. So we worked all night to try to figure out a quad BC comp, because we couldn't run our shield rush against a Balgorn, especially a flag Balgorn. So we came up with this BC comp to fight them, and it worked out. I can't speak a lot to what happened during the match because I was still asleep actually. Well, when my guys were doing the bans for this, but we had went heavily. Like I think we spent like 8 or 9 hours the night before practicing for this, and then we got into the match and executed it well, and we just played well. Good job to you, Kiko. I mean, he's obviously star of Brave.
So now, what is the now that you guys won, what is the result of winning?
We get to name their staging system fort or whatever they have, and I don't think we've come out with anything official yet. I think there's like 2 options of like edging it out again or something, or something about a Subaru and something with Sapporo. Who knows? I don't know.
Sapporo. Wow.
Sapporo Subaru.
So this is a really interesting match because on paper for you guys, it looks like they should be able to get control of your Harbies or your Brutixes and put those down with newts and just in that DPS vigilance that are out there. Like on paper, you would think Test should have this, and it's just a testament to pilot skill, which again, don't underestimate people.
The Logi trade at the beginning, people sleep on those Tech 1 logistics halls as well.
So here's what happened with the Logi trade is we had rep bots out. We had more rep bots than they did because we had all of our BCs, of course, and then our Vigilance also had rep bots, and our Vexor had rep bots as well. So all rep bots were on the T1 Logi, and all rights should have dropped earlier. And then their Guardian had no rep bots on it when it went down.
It's just, but on paper for me, I look at that and I go, Balgorn, assuming that it has more than the what I think is idiocy, which is one NOS that I see all the time, gets a hold of your damage line, your Navy Harbs. Like you just sacrifice a Daredevil to get on there, and like it's going to silence so much DPS. You know, Vigilance aren't really going to be able to do much. I gotta say that to me it looked like from paper perspective better piloting, and I'm going to say that since I have not seen the match.
I have to say that Bungo Brown and the Malediction definitely brought it when it came to tackling down their Guardian. I think we got tackled first, and we were on super fast, and they I don't think he died that match. It was just superb flying by him. So I was super happy to have watched it.
I think me and Mir were kind of watching this at the same time. I was like, Brave got this. He's like, oh yeah, really? I'm like, yeah, Brave got this. Like I've scrimmaged both of these teams. Brave is 4 and above. You know what we've seen out of Test. Test is not to take anything away from Test, but from just practicing versus you guys. You guys brought it in scrimmages. Like we had to really think to beat you guys, or really pilot, and it always came down. Those scrimmages always went 10 minutes between us and you guys. And you guys executed very well in this match.
Yeah, much agreed.
So we have breaking news brought to you by Wally Marts.
Beep, 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 beep.
Apparently this 2 o'clock Fortizar timer that the goons were broadcasting literally to Reddit was a ruse cruise for them to anchor 2 Keepstars in NPC Venal.
Those silly geese.
Nothing better than your forward staging Keepstars. Brought to you by.
So that's a good ruse. That's a good ruse because, as we all know, Venal, no one shows up to Venal.
Brought to you by the Rorquals of Delve. Rorquals of Delve, always mining. So yeah, that was a great match. Test versus Brave. I really enjoyed it. I didn't believe you at first, King Voodoo, and then it just went exactly as you called. I was surprised how fast the Navy BC core for Test just vaporized as soon as they took fire.
But the comp is more distributed. Like if you look at it, like that Balgorn looks scary on paper, but like he's got guns on that Balgorn, so he's not gonna silence out that damage line before they start to kill shit on the other side, you know. And you know, you look at it on paper, that battle cruiser line, that's a lot of damage on the Brave side. And this match is just about how fast you can put down that enemy's logistics, and whoever gets that tip at the beginning, then it just snowballs from there at that point.
Curious Stranger in chat here is pointing out that Yukiko has a natural 3k EHP bonus, as the Test Guardian only tanked 11k damage, and the Brave Executor tanked 14k damage. It likely due to those rep bots we talked about earlier.
Execs are very strong. You generally would mount like a 1600 plate on them, and just put a whole bunch of BC cores rep bots on them. And it's not there to live. It's there to live long enough for the enemy to try and rush them and give your team time to destroy their Logi. It's kind of like a Logi trade kind of thing that a lot of people rush into. And I think Team Skill has been using them predominantly, even when the Oneros isn't banned this year so far.
Yeah, you get 80 to 85% of the rep amount of a Tech 2, and then the same equivalent EHP, because most of the Tech 2 logistics put, you're gonna have that ancil in there. So I mean, that's gonna give you a little bit of EHP as it cycles. But like, it's just it's an EHP monster. It's a high 80% resist across the board on the Executor.
Yeah.
And like the rep bots just stretch that 80% out.
Let's not forget that the T1 Logis actually have ridiculous range as well for repping. They're pretty strong, and they rep from a great distance, better than the T2s most of the time. So
I thought that was just 50.
If you can sit out at around 60 and not have a problem with it from the Logi perspective, and that really drags the drones out as well. And if you tracking becomes an issue, if there's any kind of E-War, tracking disrupts on any of the battlecruiser line, they do really, really well. Really, really well. Especially if you're running the afterburner on them, is also when it comes across NVC, they hold up for a long time.
All right, so in our next match, we had Bright Side of Death versus We Form Volta. Bright Side of Death, a Russian group, was bringing a lot of strange, off-color, kind of different comps because of the language barrier and the different practice partners. They had the double Armageddon, double Stratios, double Prophecy, double Deacon, double Vexer. What is that? Like a battleship core with drones versus the Volta group, which brought the Razorback Mimitar Rush adept.
I think,
yeah, that was.
If I remember this match correctly, one of those Armageddons was actually a flagship Armageddon.
Correct.
And they were both full Newt 1 Smart Bomb Armageddons, which was generally you'll see like a core with 1 Newt Armageddon, but 2 Newt Armageddons, that's a lot of control, especially if one's a flagship. But it's like a really interesting setup, which you'll usually see from a lot of the non-English speaking groups. They operate with different metas, train with different things, and don't communicate as much with the people who bring certain metas, or they don't understand it. And the successful ones will find their own things that are successful and they can make successful, right?
You talking about a Volta team that wasn't happy about getting kicked in the losers bracket by AVA neither, and it's a really good team. They were gonna tap out lesser teams. Not that I think that Bright Side of Death was a bad team, but Volta's on that premier level. They could sling it out. They got the pedigree, and they got the the moxie of guys that roll out of Thera and just kill nerds every day, all day. It's all they do.
BSOT is reliably mid-tier.
And we actually early in the AT practices brought a comp very similar to this, and came up against a comp very similar to what Volta had, and we just got rolled. And I believe the exact words out of Voodoo's mouth were, "This is trash. Put it in the fucking dumpster. It's done." I'm not trying to insult Bright Side of Death like theory crafting, but like you come against a strong shield team, and especially anything that's got ANSI boosters on it, and you're just fucked.
Yeah.
So that match was only about 4 minutes, which quickly slips us into another high-profile match. The last match I watched live, Hydra Reloaded versus Pandemic Legion. Now this is
the Civil War.
This is a rematch of previous AT finals, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It was funny looking at those 3 teams, and I think I put it in the chat. I took a picture of those 3 teams, and like only one of these teams has a chance to get AT ships this year. Like you got Hydra, Exodus, and Pandemic Legion sitting there like looking at each other, and none of them. Only one can hit the top 4 out of those 3.
This came to be known as the losers bracket of death.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it was freaking brutal.
Hell bracket.
So PL brought the Balgorn, 2 Myrmidons, 2 Gilas, 2 Ishtars, 2 Vexers, and a Purifier with the drone blob. Hydra brought 2 Sleipnirs, a Simi, 2 Ferox, 2 Jackdaws, 2 Kitsunes, and a Malice, similar to that Razorback comp, but with good application across the field, and the jams from the Kitsunes.
And the
the
Kitsunes,
jams.
you didn't see a lot of the jams from the Kitsunes landing on the ships. The Kitsunes were jamming the Gila drones the entire match. They were shutting them down like that.
Gila and Ishtar.
Yeah, this is a testament once again to defanging. Like people like early on, we're talking about smart bombs. The defanging comes like you defang with the missiles, you defang with the rails or the your beams, and that's what does it. Put the drones out of commission, jam the nightmare friggin' Garista drones faction ships, and just murder all the rest of the drones. Put down Logi bots with Jackdaws. Put down damage drones with Jackdaws. And spend the first 2 minutes doing that, and you'd be good to go. You could kill anything you want at that point.
We had a scrim against Slice where like they had 2 rattlesnakes in a comp, and it took us a while to break anything. So we just kind of took our ECM and put it on the rattlesnake drones. It's like 4 drones, which would add up to most of the DPS, and like it's infuriating when that happens. Obviously, as far as this match though, I really liked this match because it was kind of like a civil war match, because a lot like last year everyone knows that Hydra was banned for collusion, right? And the Hydra team, like the Alliance, was banned but not the members, not most of them, at least the captain was, but not the members. And the members went over to, or the more AT serious members went over to Pandemic Legion to fight on their team. Yeah, Blue Melon, Casper 24, that little group. And now that Hydra's not banned from the AT for this year, they went back into Hydra and then fought against the team that they were flying with last year, which was a really fun match to watch.
It was interesting. It was interesting though to see, like you talk about out meta and outthinking yourself. You know, PL banned out all forms of armor logistics and then brought traditional armor ships outside of the Gila with no Logi at all, versus a team that has a Logi that's mobile and can move. Versus a fly swatter comp that just destroys you. You know, like it's about that shock damage, and they were able to just remove pieces out of the PL setup and just neutered their damage off the beginning of the fight.
And I believe that was actually a PL flagship Balgorn that was an Logilus comp as well, which was interesting.
Yeah, Avery. I actually talked to Avery after. Yeah, he said that a lot of people were giving him flack about not jumping out the arena with the Balgorn, but you know they got respect amongst those guys, and they earned that flagship kill. So you know, you can give him shit. You can give him shit if you want, but you know, when there's respect amongst teams, that you know. They kind of honor each other a little bit, because he had every opportunity to jump out the arena with that shit.
Well, let's not mention as well that like kudos for being a showman there. Put the good loot on the field. If you're gonna die, they deserve it, and let the fans see the blood in the arena. Like that's what I like. I like to see the flagship go down and people burning in to loot it, and knowing that's there and look at the kill mail. Now don't rob people of their spoils on that. This is the AT. Come on.
Yeah, totally agree. Not a big fan of the jumping out when you're losing.
Breaking up real bad, Rixx.
What I did.
Sorry, not a big fan of the jumping out when you're losing. You know, just stay in there to the bitter end.
Okay, correct. Now get the Jedi.
Yeah, yeah. You've got some serious. I don't know if your microphone's got an issue or something. You can get that fixed.
Sounds digital, whatever it is.
Weird.
Yeah, very weird. Speaking of very weird, let's just go straight right into it. From that, we had skill yourself versus the initiative skill.
Well, you got to point out that Elise was very sad.
Elise was sad. Elise was sad.
He was commentating this match with Fozzie, and he watched his team die, and it was amazing.
They both did. Fozzie used to be PL.
Yeah.
I'll give Fozzie some kind of independence away from his old alliance, but it was fun to watch Elise kind of just have to eat a little bit of that bitterness.
Well, Fozzie used to also be on the AT team. He used to be a huge in spying on enemy teams, right? When practices were on Singularity. So it was really nice to watch both of them just like on that commentator panel, really worried when they saw that comp. And then the sadness when they were dying.
Feels bad, man.
Feels so bad.
Yeah, the second guessing, the like depression. At least there's not infighting, like, you know. And that's something you talk about later with the AT. That's the
Oh, and we've heard stories about the epic, smack talking from PL and all that, coming into the match like
Proper gentlemen in that match.
They were real classy about it. They had a lot of respect for our team, and I mean they got their little shots in about ECM and all that, but it's good to see this kind of match early in the tournament. You know what I mean? Where there's really something at stake. What are they going to bring? Are they going to bring it all? Are they going to put it all out on the table here? And they both went kind of conservative. No AT ships, just a flagship. Well, expensive flagship, but.
All right. Sorry.
I don't mean to derail. I'm running low on time now. If you don't mind jumping ahead real quick, just one more match so we can get.
Can you hear me now, or am I still a robot?
Great.
Much better.
Hey.
Which is exactly what I want to do.
I was gonna ask.
The brave band apart.
Yeah, because I got a split too.
Let's go straight into it.
Skill beat
Brave.
Initiative. Poor initiative. Yeah.
And then we had Brave and a band apart.
Yay.
Bum, bum, bum. So let's
well, from our perspective, we didn't expect them to bring a Stardays, so that was kind of a shock. Everything else kind of was what we expected. Again, it's a little bit of an off moment there at the beginning, but because we totally did not expect 2 Astartes. It's kind of it's not unusual, but in this tournament we haven't really seen that very often, so that was a bit of a surprise. I don't know if you can speak to that, but our bands basically were to try to separate because we spent a lot of time looking at how Brave had flown in the matches leading up to this, and kudos to them. They performed really, really well. So we knew it was going to be a tough match. So we tried to band them into a corner, and then one of the things we went out this year specifically not to use our flagship until the last match, and we managed to do that. So that was nice. So we thought, it was a pretty strong. We didn't get to use the Hugin though, which we love. We had to use the rapier instead. But other than that, we were, was ready to go. So
yeah. So from Brave perspective, you hit us on top of the head, like square on top of the head with your bands at the time.
Oh, that's good to know, at least.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we had the same scenario on you. Like we knew what you were probably going to bring, and we predicted it well. Right. And so we saw your Hugin. In the Ishtar, we knew we couldn't see.
I think you banned the Eoses too. I think. Yeah.
I don't remember now. Yeah. But no. So as soon as the band stopped, we broke down and started theory crafting a quad BC to bring against you guys because we didn't have anything. So we theory crafted the fits. And got it all purchased and shipped up in the times between the bands and the start of the match. We had pilots going from our staging and travel sceptering to Jita to buy the Astartes to bring against you guys.
Wow. Kudos for that then. That's a lot of, it was a long gap between the match and band. Because there was some delay, wasn't there, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, everything was running late that day, but the bands were on time, but everything was late. I think we made it by with like 15 minutes. We had everyone, 15 minutes till TP, we had everyone where they should be.
Kudos to you guys for doing that. That's a great story. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't, we expected it, but we hadn't planned for it because we had spent all of our time just trying to make top 16 against Test. And that was our goal. So once we had to come up against you guys, luckily we had, I had taken down my notes the night before on you guys on all your previous matches and what I would see. And then we had, it was complete powwow between everyone, just tearing shit apart, trying to figure out what to bring.
Awesome. Yeah, just so you know too, you did manage to take out a nice chunk of our bots with your bomb. Or if it wasn't yours or the other guy, but
it was only one hound that time.
Okay, all right, yep.
Yeah, it was. I had been so depressed at my first bomb in the tournament, being the first bomb ever in practice or anywhere, and then it was so bad that we had several practices against Lizardhawks, but we had one special one where we went up against NC, and we had a practice against NC where my bombing got to the point where they just stopped dropping their rep drones, and they had to wait until I was off the field before they even deployed them at all.
Right.
But
That's when you know you're doing your job, right?
So I was finally happy that I had gotten to that point, but I am running super behind now. And I would like to thank you guys all for your time.
Cheers, man.
I see any of you guys at Vegas, I'll buy you a drink. So
awesome. Cheers.
Gentlemen, have a great rest of the stream. I'll see you later.
Good luck. Good luck in the rest of the tournament too.
Yeah, we'll be rooting for you.
Thanks for stopping by.
It's always better if a team that beats you ends up winning. I think that would make it better.
Yeah, we started rooting for you guys when you beat us.
Yeah, because it's true because the two teams that we lost to are still in the tournament, so it's kind of nice to have a little bit of a rooting thing for the last weekend.
It also helps the ego too.
It does, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, hey, we lost to those guys, so that's cool. But yeah, I gotta head out too, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Rixx.
Yep, I just like to shout out to all the Abandoned Apart pilots who put in almost 6 months worth of work almost every weekend and numerous times during the week and everything else that goes into doing this. So we did a little better than last year, and but next year we can take the gold.
Buy Jose a beer for me.
Yeah, Jose's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rixx.
That's something to be discussed as well, is the amount of work that every pilot puts into the AT. If you get it and you win a matches, it is a lot of work. And you have arguments on comms sometimes. You have late nights. You have real life. We had individuals in the military who ended up due to internal drama in the alliance. He couldn't even play because he came back from a deployment and he was off the team. So it's something, there's a lot of emotions in the AT. Anybody who's coming in, you're typically dealing with all alpha males or alpha females that are in there, and it turns into a real interesting playing field for small gang styles.
So
yeah,
in our next match, we had another high-end match with Tuskers Co. versus Reform Volta. With the Tuskers bringing a slightly different setup with the Vultures, Basilisk, Gila, Feroxes, Flycatchers, which was a ship that wasn't seen much in the AT.
A few times, not too many.
It was popular in the last year's meta.
Right. Crucifier and Griffin against Volta's Balgorn, 2 Native Brutix, Curse, Augur, 2 Vigilance, Pontifex, Crucifier, and Daredevil.
Yeah, and even though Tuskers had, a comp that you didn't really see that often, whereas Volta, that was pretty much everyone had that same fit. Tuskers took it 100 to 17.
My team actually did some scrims against Rote Kapelle. I wasn't in Rote Kapelle last year, but we did scrims against Rote Kapelle last year, and we brought a very similar comp to the Tuskers comp. And the really cool thing is the range on those Feroxes and Vultures, because unlike the regular BC cores that you see, you don't have the optimal range bonus. So when you mount rails on those Vultures and Feroxes, you can just focus down and then delete bombers and all sorts of stuff off the field before they even realize what's going on. It was a really cool play to see from the Tuskers.
It lets them kite outside of the flag bow's web range and still apply very, very good damage from outside of 60 kilometers. Those Vultures and Feroxes can shoot from one side of the arena to the other as well. So it's a very good comp, knowing your bonuses on your ships. Elite team, Tuskers.
A lot of damps in this fight, which was new EWAR to the matches. We'd seen a lot of ECM and a lot of tracking disruptors, but not many damps up to this point.
And that goes into playing the meta as well. They know they're shooting from range, and if they're dictating range, just without the scripts, you got to be at extreme ranges, and they were able to do it with this comp.
Well, the thing about the damps is even if you mount it on something like a carries that has the strength bonus to the damps, you're doing since you can't mount scripts into the damps, you're doing 28% lock range reduction, which if you put 3 or 4 damps on, that's okay, but it's not really amazing, especially given this meta where you have a lot of drones where you might not need a lock, or where if you're facing a Navy BC core, they can easily push in for higher damage anyway. It's just it's interesting to see.
And new to stealth bombers,
so stealth bombers and griffins and kitsunes kind of suffer because they got to come into a more dangerous like realm. As like once again logistics perspective, I never really worried about the damps because you could put all the damps you wanted to on me. I just switched to tracking targeting range on my script, and like it's basically ineffective. Yeah, I had to come in and float at my optimal. You know, there's no like I'm at 50 from a target, but I'm still like I'm not having to come into 30 or 20 or something that would be really dangerous or losing lock, and for that matter.
Yep. So right after that was Hydra versus Exodus. Hydra won that one, but the really fun stuff started happening the last, I believe it was like 5 or 6 matches. So right after that, we had Hydra Reloaded versus NC Dot. That was super duper 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 close. We're talking like to like the very last, few seconds really was 77 to 74. That was like a crazy match.
This fight was amazing. Like,
yeah,
go back and watch this fight if you watched no other fights.
Yeah,
the whole weekend.
Yeah, you must
watch this fight.
Yeah, the nail biting fights are always the great ones to watch, where it gets down to the wire. It's just fantastic. Great show.
Yeah, so that you had that one followed by Pen Is Out versus Laserhawks, and Laserhawks won that one. Also, surprisingly, it wasn't that close, but it was close enough. But not to be outdone, because Hydra Reloaded went up against NC Dot again, part 2.
Expensive match here.
Yeah. So let's go over that one. Hydra had a Rabisu, 2 Brooks, 2 Sacrilege, 2 Ishtar, 2 Pontifex, and a Purifier, whilst NC Dot had a Balcorn, Rabisu, Fleet Cane ×2, Harbinger, they had 2 of those, Vexer, 2 Hounds, and a Daredevil.
Yeah.
So
in these 3-part series, you got a lot of these expensive ships hitting the grid because whoever wins these series, they're going to be seeing some AT ships, and that is something worth fighting over.
As an AT pilot, that's your dream. Like, you get to be one of the few people that gets onto a Rabisu kill. There's only so many in the game, and there's limited amount of people on the kill mill. So it shows up, you kind of salivate and go like, oh, I want to kill that.
Well, you look at those prize ships and like, oh, look at all the price, but a lot of these guys didn't pay $1 for these ships. They got those. They got it from being very, very good last year.
Mm-hmm. They paid in time. I dream for the day where I can put the amazing Rote Kapelle Logi pilot Ruri Hoshino into a Rabisu or an Itana.
Yeah, great match. Very expensive ships if you have to buy them off the market.
In innocent matches, you want to see nail biters, or you want to see like billions upon billions die in a fire.
Yeah, for sure. We have a gap in our notes here as we reach the end. Laserhawks beat.
What gap?
Pen Is Out, 100 to 34.
That wasn't so much of a gap. It was the fact that I had screaming children at my feet, and I just wanted to go ahead and just get the scores out there. So yeah, God damn it, Pen Is Out versus Laserhawks.
If I remember the final match of Hydra versus NC, this was the most disappointing thing I have seen thus far, as NC brought a chameleon, but anybody who knows anything about the chameleon knows that it has a jam bonus. And NC just had a heavy drone DPS comp without any Logi whatsoever, and they're going to waste a chameleon without any ECM on it. Just brick tanking it with a whole bunch of shield stuff and trying to do things that we saw on the first weekend. It was really disappointing to see from NC, and I really wish we could have seen that that chameleon meet its full potential, be in an armor comp, and just have ECM everywhere along with that Gila level DPS. As far as the chameleon goes, like shield tank a chameleon heated with your prop mod, you're probably going to go a little bit faster than a Gila that doesn't have heat in its prop mod. You're going to have comparable tank, and you're going to, I think, do a little bit, you're going to do like 50 more DPS. And for hundreds of bill, it's just not worth it. It's just really depressing to see, and I wish that more deserving teams had the money to throw away like that.
I think the chameleon though, like I mean, you sleep it on a tank on a chameleon as well, but I would like to see it's got an onyx level tank. That's the part that people don't understand. Like maybe if they put one or two jams on it, but I don't know. They faced a full entire damage line. It was full of Navy Harbingers, Navy Brutuses, Harbingers. You know, like there was eight battle cruisers in the comp that they faced there. I think the battle cruisers are stronger than the drones.
They were also Lodulus, though.
Yeah,
both Lodulus, of course, they're going to be stronger to an extent, especially after all the good teams, quote unquote, have learned how to deal with the drone. I mean, we literally saw the same kind of comp in the first match of, I believe, the Tuskers against Red versus Blue this year. And like, it's an outdated comp, an outdated idea, and it's really depressing to see something like this thrown away so hard.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I'd like to have seen its bonuses used. At least it was just like one jam on it or something for, getting, some kind of heavy DPS or, like you said, out there. But I get the idea. And that's something that happens in the station. You're sitting there, oh, this sounds like a good idea. We'll brick tank it up. They're going to go for it. It's an AT ship. It's jams. They're going to go all in and it'll tank forever. And, it is a little bit like, hindsight looking at it. But I get it. And I get their mentality behind it. Don't necessarily agree with it, but expensive ship to risk as bait.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. They were trying to risk it to get that biscuit, right? They were trying to get those AT ships this year and secure this win in a best of 2 or 3. But
they're not out of it yet, though.
Their execution was so depressing.
NC Dot is definitely not out of this thing.
They're in the lower bracket now, I believe, but just like. The execution could have been a lot better as far as their comp planning went. Oh, yeah, and I feel like that was a very winnable match, even against a team with a impressively long and reliably mid-tier history as Vitra Reloaded. Well,
Vitra did something smart in this match as well. They kind of, I don't know if they I'm not going to say they took a page out of our book, but they tanked their ships. Like the Navy Brutuses had a hull tank, and the Harbingers had they just put to where they can have the most EHP on each one of those hulls, and they just outlasted. They were able to take beacons. They had micro jumps, on their ships, and they were able to get away from the drone ball.
Right.
Well, this is all setting up for the last and final weekend of AT, coming to you next weekend. Day 7 and 8, where we'll have the most grueling of grueling matches, the finals of the lower brackets and the finals of the upper brackets. We will see the AT ships handed out to their victors and more of the fun ads that we've been seeing all weekend.
All the finals, all the funs, all the brackets, they will be had.
We wanted to give a shout out to the Slice ad and the Rote Kapelle ad.
Oh, which one you guys like? The one with Apophany and all?
I like the one in the asteroid belt. That one was actually really fun.
Oh yeah, that was our guy.
That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, one of the best names out of the tournament as well as our boy Biggest Dickus. Just having Rain saying Biggest Dickus on the stream, on a live CCP stream was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the retro ads were the best. So Rote had the retro ad, and then Clown Car had like a Miami Vice style retro ad.
Yeah,
so like those throwback ones.
The Rote Kapelle Get Good ad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Shout out to C-Speed for sneaking our ad in there. I did see it once on day 6.
Wait, I saw it a couple times, I thought.
Yeah, ours was in there.
Yeah, I thought I saw it a couple times.
There was lots of shout-outs to CCB Snowed In, who's heavily featured in our ad.
Yeah, I figured we'd have to do that one.
The ads are always good. It's like watching the Super Bowl. Sometimes you just want to see the ads. I remember Camel Empire always had good ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good.
Their volley ad was great.
Yeah.
Nah, I like the one with all the Arab guys, just screaming the whole time.
Yeah, that's the one.
And we'll also like to give a shout out to Jintan for all the work he put in, research, and his amazing outfit.
The Goldman crew?
Do you think his grandma does all the outfit picking? What's her name? Jin Graham?
I don't know. You got to
That's the
give him
thing,
respect,
right?
man. That takes some serious balls to put like that outfit on and show up in it, like knowing that you're gonna have 1,000+ people watching you. That's an intentional thing, and it takes some nuts. Because I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I'd do it, but then again, I've done worse.
Living the dream. And shout out to
Yeah.
Clapton Blastaho. His beats
Yeah.
are featured in our ad and many of the other ads.
Yep, Captain Blastaho, he's on SoundCloud, but I've heard SoundCloud's going away, so I don't know where he's going to go. But I would gladly host him any day. Captain Blastaho does original hip hop, not really parody songs, but he does like real original lyrics, and we pretty much try to have him at the beginning of each episode. He puts them out like every couple weeks, so check him out.
Pretty sure he's a pilot in Exodus.
Yeah,
Is
you'll
he?
see him. You see him in Villarear, around Black Rise and all floating around. He's waiting for you to fuck up in something shiny.
Catch him outside. How about that?
And before we walk ourselves to the exit, we'd like to give a shout out to the Eve Dublin meetup, which is October 20th and October 21st. Revealed in the secret Discord chat that you can all join to the Mind Clash podcast. The shot glasses available from Eve Dublin were revealed there.
You see, I thought that was a dank leak. However, I saw in about 3 other Discord forums that he also put that on there. We're talking about Seamus Donahue put that on there. But yeah, about 3 other Discords he put that on there. So I said, damn it, we're not as danky and leaky as we thought.
I
So
think
yeah,
we're the first. I'm gonna
maybe.
say we're first and make that.
I'll say it. I'll say it. So yeah, the 20th and 21st is Eve Dublin. October 20th and 21st. You can find out more information about that on evemeet.net. Of course, there'll also be the Vancouver monthly Eve Meet, which is up there with Murder Dude.
Yeah, it's move locations. If you're local to me, we are no longer in New West. We're gonna try out the Burnaby meetup. It's going to be at Brown Social House near Brentwood. It's in Burnaby, pretty close to the SkyTrain, easy to get to. Same time, 7 o'clock, and it's going to be on a Thursday and on a Tuesday. So come join us on Thursday. It's a great time. We always get a good number of people, a couple CCP devs or former devs. So it's a great time. Come out, hang out with us.
Yep, and I want to do a real quick shout out. It's a little out of sorts, but I saw it pop on my Facebook feed, and I know some of you guys are weirdos like that. But if you're into LARPing, that'd be live action role playing in Harker Heights at the Carl Levine Park. The Stronghold of Hell's Gate is having a social and practice of LARPing on the 17th from 7 to 10. So why not?
All right.
I'm not going.
Sure.
Someone.
Well, from us and Slice, we want to thank you guys for hosting us tonight. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to our competitors that we've practiced against, and the people that we played, and all the people involved in the AT and all of that. This is what I play the game for these days. So thanks for having us. And I'm definitely gonna be watching your show going forward here.
All right, thank you.
Shout out to Mind Clash Podcast, and they are now affiliates on Twitch. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button with your Amazon Prime or with your Twitch monies, and show them the support they deserve for all the work that they put into it. Also, if you're interested in the AT for next year, I very much recommend that you apply yourself to join and go through the feeder rounds. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask. Cyclo Hexanol in game.
Yep.
Thank you for having us. And same thing, reiterating Cyclos. AT's a lot of fun. It's a great learning experience. I think every alliance should attempt the feeder rounds. The more, the merrier. It's something that is, a once in a year thing. Be a part of it. It's a lot of fun. And thank you guys for doing this podcast. It is great content, and it's part of what makes Eve such a fantastic and unique game, is that there is this kind of content that is, following it.
Kel, I can't deal with all these pats on the back. I just can't. The show is over.
Well, I mean, you got to make up for it from the unpatting of the backs we got earlier.
I mean, the kicks to the balls. Thanks.
Whatever.
Yes, thank you. come join us on Discord if you're not already. Subscribe to us. Check us out on Crossing Zebras. Thanks, Nash, for the pump up of the show beforehand. Check us out on our own RSS feed if you're not already downloading it. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. We are super late. Sorry for the long episode. Hope you loved it. Check us out next week where we'll have some coverage of the last week of AT and maybe some other stuff in EVE. I don't know. Other stuff goes on, right?
And don't forget, may Doom Chinchilla's twat forever be salty.
I mean, I would love to have Doom on the show just to hear how salty he is. Maybe we could tell him about the Rorqual nerfs. No, changes. Anyways, thank you all.
Yep.